Good evening everybody and welcome back to the No Pin Super League Series 2, and we are on our last week, week 8 of this fantastic Super League series, in the final week starting in May on this lovely, gorgeous, very cloudy bank holiday in the UK. So week 8, what have we brought so far? We brought 7 weeks of fantastic racing on RGT, now in fantastic partnership with Wahoo and System X. So how are the leagues standing going into this last league effort? Igor Kopp still leading the Platinum Gold standings after not being there last week, allowing Rasmus Feldballer to creep up into second place. Will we see Rasmus sneaking out at the last, or will we see Igor Kopp turning up and holding on for the win? John Beams, who again was missing last week, in third place, and Jan Vanna in fourth. Overall, a very competitive Platinum Gold. In the Silver Bronze standings, we have Klaus Vanna, who was missing last week, with a fairly good cushion over Kevin Barkley, who put in a sterling performance last week after racing the night before in a very hard race. Plenty of races there from 3R filling out that top 10, and again, those top few positions still very competitive. It's still all to play for today, so it depends who turns up, who's got the legs, who has not exceeded themselves in this bank holiday in the UK with a lot of cheese, wine and beer. In the team standings, currently No Pins R3RE Racing leading from ECKD by just over 100 points. That's very much rain in a ball, so we may well see the ECKD putting out a big team today, particularly because there's a bank holiday in Great Britain. In the Silver Bronze, Team ADR stomping in away with almost 300 points lead over the ECKD again, currently second place in both leagues. So where are we today? We are today in the beautiful town and beautiful area of Sheffield in the middle of the UK, and we're doing the league, or the route called the Strines and Hormoss. This is an exceptionally bumpy, lumpy, up, down, backwards, forwards, left and right the way around this beautiful UK countryside, where we have a total of 37.7 kilometers with a complete of just shy of 1,000 meters climbing. So we can guarantee that if we have numbers in the field, this will be an extremely attacking race from the absolute minute the gun goes right until that final really tough uphill finish. So heading off into the pens, who do we have in the pens today? So will we see these top 10 riders showing up in both of the leagues? Will we see a competitive result? Will we see the lightweights starting to actually start putting some pressure onto these sprinters, or will we see the current top 3 favourites continuing to put the hammer down and take this win? Good to see Igor Kops there, just managed to catch sight of his name in the field there, so he's definitely here to defend his lead and take the Platinum Gold. Cameras there on the field. We've currently got a total of 47 riders in the pen, including our NMS cameras. 10 seconds to go before this final race in the No Pins R3R Super League Series, and we are finishing off in currently rainy UK. And as usual, very competitive, very aggressive start from everybody. And last week we saw these Team Ferrari guys, Mr. Ferrari from Team ADR and Caruso from Team ADR, both of them absolutely smashing it out the pen, setting the pace very early on. Both of them sadly died off as the race went on, but they made that first half of the race a very, very competitive affair. So as you can see, the bottom of the screen there, we can see the profile of today's course, and we can just see how lumpy this course is. Lots of little red painful sections, followed by some really nice recovery sections, but we are pretty much guaranteed to see this field split on probably every single one of those uphill sections. And then later all, as we come to the end, we can see that huge big block of red, that really competitive uphill finish. This is where it will really test the rider's mettle, really see who wants it the most, because this is not an easy finish. People aren't going to be able to sit in the draft waiting for the sprint. You are going to have to graft, not draft, right till the finish line. So back to the action. So this first little bit of the race, we've got a little bit of a kicker. So we are going to see the field spread out, and it would be interesting to see who gets caught out by this early aggressive start. Currently, not too many red numbers going out in the front, so they're all taking it relatively easy. Maybe they're saving the legs for these couple of big red sections ahead, or maybe people are just trying to burn off some of this Easter Monday, some of these Bank Holiday Monday indulgences, trying to still burn off those Easter eggs from the Easter not long ago. We can see that there's two very definite groups starting to form now. We can see the bigger group and a smaller break-off group at the back. No doubt they will clump it together, but I'd be very surprised if these guys manage to make it back onto this front group, who is currently running and winning by Gav Ash, who's great to see Gav doing some attacking. Gav's been more aggressive the last few races, really good to see. And Team ADR not happy to let them take the lead. Back on the dropping pack, we can see Pedersen, who's just dropped off that front pack there. Pedersen's been very competitive, currently in 25th place. So he's got a couple of team riders around them. So maybe these guys are going to try and get Pedersen back into the running, because he certainly is challenging for some places to boost him back up the league again. Three CQD riders together. No doubt these guys will work together to try and rein in this gap that currently sits at about 170 meters from the leading pack. Will they be able to do it? Because this is a pretty tall order, to be fair, pulling that gap in. Kragland, again, another Scandinavian rider, dropping off that pack of three, so he will no doubt finishing off there. Ferrari, who was very aggressive, flashing red there, just like the team colours there, as he tries to get himself settled into this small group, getting into the draft and working hard. These guys will probably not make it back to the front group now. Back to the front group, and we can see that chasing group of Costa Ferrari from Team ADR, currently sitting at around about 80 meters from the front of that front group, with a number of riders still there. So already we've seen this group attrish down to a smaller group, and now we are no doubt going to see this get progressively smaller every time we see a little lump. Good to see some of the familiar names in that front group. We've got Jan Vanna from No Pins in there. Gavash is in there as well. Shaik, who had a fantastic race last week against Zach Horner and against Scott Gleason, just missing out towards the end. And of course we've got Rasmus Felballer, who we know is undoubtedly going to be aggressive from the start. Yeah, Van Vanna there, doing very well for the No Pins R3R team, and currently we are expecting Jan to be putting a good performance. Jan has got a fantastic sprint. Whether he'll be able to currently overturn John Beams in third place. John's not here today. I can't see John on the road, so it would not be surprising if Jan gets a good time and gets a good position in. We may well see Jan rising up the field and taking a podium position of John. Rasmus, who we saw last week, was superbly aggressive, absolutely worked his socks off right to the end. Superb aggressive riding from Rasmus, and I'm fairly sure we'll see that again today. But at the minute, he's quite happy, just sitting in, letting other people do the work, but I am absolutely convinced that we will not see that for very long. Rasmus has changed his shirt as well. Looks like they've got a brand new series of shirts this week, so Rasmus there got a new shirt on. I can't quite read what's on the back of it. Rasmus, keep still. Oh, Stradale. Oh, it would be interesting to see what Stradale actually... It sounds very Italian, that. Whether they've moved up into the higher bracket of RGT jerseys, whether this has got that little bit more air around it. Certainly used to seeing Rasmus in the red of ECKD, currently sporting that beautiful lime green like a limesicle pop, just waiting to be licked to the front of the pack. Rasmus no doubt will be putting some hard miles in very, very soon. That group we can see is already whittled down. Walter Clay is back in the group again there, which is great to see. Oram, again, another name who we know can work hard. And Otto off the front, putting that bit of effort up in this first little kicker. He's setting the pace. He's going to stretch this pack. Everybody at the back is going to have to respond. Otherwise, when we hit this downhill, we will see those few riders dropping off. So has Otto gone too early? Has he done the sensible thing and tried to give himself a little bit of wiggle room? Gavash and Melville, again, who we saw last week, was put in some really good, solid work. Melville last week. Will he be able to put in the same amount of graft this week? We shall see in the next forthcoming miles. Gavash now setting the pace, still in the red zone, right the way to the top of this climb. Wouter Clay is coming up behind him from Moon Riders, followed by Fellballer as well, who's in third place. A nice two-tone shirt actually from the front there, that nice black, like a bit of a black currant and lime hard sweet that you would have seen in 1970s sweet shops. Always the one where you wanted to get to the chocolate in the middle of the lime sweet. You always were desperate to get to the chocolate. You would try and lick the life out of the lime, and then you'd catch a sharp edge of that lime sweet, cut your tongue, and then every single lick after that was painful until you got to the reward of the chocolate in the middle. Or if you were like my brother, you just crunch the life out of it, get to the chocolate anyway, job done, sorted. Cragland there, just dropping off the back. You can just see some of these riders just dropping off the back there. Even this small chasing pack, they're still having to work hard to be able to hold the draft. These riders will want to drop one of the two riders if they can. Just creates that little bit of better chance for them to get some more points on the board. But they have to work hard to stay there. So will Cragland be able to get back into the field? Pedersen's currently sitting in 8th position in the platinum gold position, so he has got a good chance of moving up the field. Probably not a chance of getting into the top 3, particularly with Jan Vanner, Igor Kops and Rasmus Fellballer all there, but he has a good chance to move up the field if his team can help pull him in. D'Agostino, Jimmy ADR, the Italians have got a good showing by the Italians there today. Most of them riding for Team ADR, putting in some good attacking riding last week, and certainly I'm expecting to see that again, particularly from Caruso, who we saw was superbly attacking last week. And I think Caruso last week sadly had a heart rate issue, so it'll be interesting to see whether he has his heart rate monitor working today, because he was certainly putting it up for grabs last week and sadly had to drop off. Currently we are riding with Osvaldi, who, unlike Caruso last week, seems to have a cadence failure. Currently ticking along at 0 RPM. Wouter Clay's taking the front now. Wouter, we know, is a strong rider. He's having a quick check over his shoulder there, just making sure that everyone's behind him. And indeed they are. Wouter, you're doing well. You've got plenty of riders behind you. Wouter currently not in the running for the top 10 positions at the moment. He hasn't really had enough races under his belt, but always a really exciting and always a very aggressive rider to watch. Jan Vanner representing No Pins today. We've got a smaller showing from No Pins this final race, which was brought to us by Stephen Briley, who was one of the No Pins riders. We saw Stephen last week putting in some sterling efforts to close down that gap. And chatting to Stephen after the race, that's exactly what his job was, to try and close down any of those gaps, not let a solo rider get away for too long before making sure that the pack was dragged back into play. And he did that job superbly well, sacrificed himself at the end, but managing to smack out 1,000 or so watts for the sprint finish after his efforts, which I'm fairly sure we will not see today, because by the time the riders get to the top of this nice red climb, I'd be very surprised if any of them have got 1,000 watts left in the legs. Hendrik Mard from Swedish Riders, he's been superb again. Hendrik, he had a bit of an off week. Hendrik's currently lying in 6th position in the Platinum Gold solo competition. He has a good chance to move up the field with no signs of pleasure today, and John Beams. But I'm fairly sure that Jan Vanner will be marking Hendrik Mard to make sure that he continues to record more points and stay ahead of the Swede in the competition today. So there's still all to play for today. Melbourne from Scotland on some home turf and the English turf. I'm fairly sure to be enjoying these sunny skies in England on the RGT system there today. Certainly not what we're experiencing in the UK. It's been cloudy, it's been cold, the typical British bank holiday. That's why these guys are on the virtual roads, not out on the real roads, although I'm fairly sure that some of those harder UK riders will have been there out there today putting the legs on the line. Maillard, who we saw, was relatively aggressive last week from Belgium. He put a good break in towards the second half of the race yesterday, and good to see him getting himself back into the pack there. And some of me have made notice on this always again brilliant ZMS stream that we now have this really nice blue X. As many of you may or may not be aware, RGT is now in strong partnership with Wahoo to be part of their Wahoo system of training. So if you were previously an RGT member, you will now be able to enjoy the full benefits of being under the umbrella of the Wahoo system. Whether you've got a kicker, a climber, a ticker, or anything else in the Wahoo system, this no doubt will be an excellent acquisition for Wahoo and be able to take this fantastic racing platform from strength to strength in months to come. Ruzadek from Canada. Don't see many Canadians in these series, especially in the European race times. Maybe he's just got so much DIY to do this weekend, therefore getting his racing in early or late to make sure he's got plenty of time to keep things at home ticking over smoothly. But good to see some of our North American colleagues in this time zone today. So down that downhill from this little bit of a section, currently we've got a number of riders in this front group. We've got over 15 riders, I think, in this front group. Yep, all the way down to, up to 17 riders. Cooper just hanging on the end. Come on, Cooper. Get that, don't get all mini on us. Make sure you keep those legs pumping. Get those legs working, keeping that pack well done. And now we can see from the bottom map, we can just see that we're again coming up to a difficult section, 5% on the gradient slope. Again, we can see these red numbers at the front. Rasmus finally starting to put in some aggressive work alongside Gavash and the front, who's been very aggressive today. We can see that stringing out again. What we don't want to see, this knicker elastic snapping. Caruso is dangling there, Cooper dangling as well, and Oram, who's currently sitting in the top 10, just dangling on the dangle of death. Will Cooper be able to put enough effort in to close this gap? He's left it late he's got halfway there through this climb, but that kind of gap, you can just see these riders disappearing off in front of you. It's really difficult to get your motivation to close that gap, to put in that extra effort, and it's not a 5-second little dig. It's a good 10, 20, 30 seconds of additional effort just to get behind these guys. And at this 12.8%, there is no draft hero advantage. You're on your own, your legs are your own, you can't rely on anybody else to pull you up. Krajewski, who's been there or thereabouts, middle of the pack so far the last few races, although he is sitting in the table in the top 10, coming up to Cooper. He's going to take him over. This is where Cooper has the opportunity. He's going to sit on the wheel. He's going to use Cooper as a pacer, is he? No, he's going to take it back on the red zone. Cooper, we're going to work together. If these guys work together, if they actually start competing, they may be able to make a little bit of a dent in that front pack. But I suspect as that gap seems to be climbing to 50, 60, 70 meters, that they will be now working together on their own, trying to stay away from Helveg and crew who are following them. Henrik Mard in the front, setting the pace up this climb. We're around about 3/4 of the way up this first real testing climb. You can see that pack stringing out. These numbers are slowly diminishing down as we drop riders gap by gap. And at this rate, if we keep dropping riders, 3 or 4 riders every incline, every peak, we may well see by the actual final little stretch up that hill, we may only have 2 or 3 riders who are actually competing for the podium positions. But that little clump of riders there sticking together, nobody will want to get dropped. They've got that last little bit to go before they get over this over the top of this climb, 13% there we could see. And there we go, the road's starting to flatten out, 6.3%. It's important now that you get into that draft, get onto the back of those wheels, do not let any gaps form, because before you know it, you'll be back on the downhill again, and the power of the draft of the pack will carry the rest of the riders away from you. Klaus Bearing there from ECKD, who's again been competed down in 20th position with Helveg. These guys will be racing their own race. There are still points up for grabs, so every single position that they can pull, wherever it is, taking on their colleagues, taking on their rivals, is going to score points not only for them, but points for the team in the competition. This is where team competitions make a massive difference. You may not be racing for yourself, but those extra 1 or 2 points that you can gain from additional positions on the road can make a huge difference to your team standings and the overall league positions. And sometimes the joy is you don't know how many points you're going to bring. You don't know how many points your team's going to bring. So the best you can do is the best that you can do. Get those points in the board, cross your fingers, and hope that your team's managed to rack up enough to be able to take yourself to the top of the leaderboard. Osvaldi now in the front. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that could be is it Uruguay or Argentinian flag? If you know, please message in, let me know, because my knowledge of foreign flags certainly isn't the best. Geography was certainly my worst subject in school, and that hasn't changed. Igor Kops quite happily sitting in that pack there. He knows that he has the power, he knows he has the strength to take this to the end, and he's sitting very pretty at the moment. Nobody looks like they're going to challenge today. We don't have anyone in third place there to be able to take his position. John Beams isn't there to compete. Rasmus Fellballer's up there. But all Igor has to do is sit there, look pretty, get in the draft, work hard, keep his position. If he stays in these top few positions, he knows he's got the championship in the bag. But Rasmus comes up beside him just to remind him that it's not over yet. So the front group now on this really nice steep downhill. This is where you can just get a bit of a breather, get into the draft, and making sure that you are getting good recovery, because it's not going to last for long. Damien W from France, currently ticking over 157 beats per minute. Just easing it down there, 72 cadence, only 92 watts power, just chilling out there, getting himself plenty of recovery. So for a rider of this quality, ticking over 141 heart rate, this will be comfortable. So he's actually got some great recovery there. So we should have enough certainly in the heart rate tank to be able to attack this next climb and stay with this front pack. But everything could change. And Ike by magic, out he goes. Out the back. Mark this time taking it off the front. So each one of these climbs, we've seen a different rider whacking it off the front. Gav Ash there, look, Gav Ash in 8th position. There's a little bit of gap between him and the front pack. Has Gav got enough to be able to pull it back? Or is Gav's race finished? Is he going to be soloing it back to the finishing line? Or will he have enough energy to be able to close this gap? Because after this little incline, there's a really long, sharp, steep downhill, allowing for plenty of recovery. Come on, Gav, good last effort. Yeah, come on, let's get back up to this pack, let's get to the top with them, and then you've got plenty of recovery before you hit that next incline. Let's see if we can keep you in this top 10 riders. So we can see those gaps starting to increase. Mark now got a 12-meter gap over DW, who attacked previously, all the way down, and then we can see another little form group of Gav Ash, a solo rider, then Melville, Scheik and Jan Vanna. So Jan Vanna sitting up there in 11th position, doing enough to be able to hold his position. Will he be able to do enough to be able to hold 4th position, or will Hendrik Mard, who's currently sitting up there at the moment, be able to get enough points on the board to take it? But I doubt it. There's over 100 points between them, so unless No Pins decide to double the points on the last race, which I very much doubt they'll do, and think we can fairly say that Jan Vanna will be comfortably taking 4th place and very likely taking 3rd place if he manages to keep in the second chasing pack. As no John Beams today, which is a shame. It's 2 weeks without John. Hope John's okay. We'll miss him on the roads. We'll miss his beautiful pain face on the Zoom camera. We also miss his great attacking on the road. Scheik and Melville, sitting there together at 9th and 10th. These guys did a lot of work last week, and it just shows that these guys are probably stronger on the flat. This lumpy course does not suit them at all, and that's why they've disappeared off the back with 12.3 kilometers to go, and still 2/3 of the race yet to ride. Bashak, we saw last week, he put in a fantastic effort towards the end of the last race, really being competitive towards the end, giving Scott Gleeson and Rasmus Felber a real run for the money. Eventually he ran out of steam, and as we saw last week, it was a head-to-head sprint up between Rasmus and Gleeson. Scott Gleeson, with his mint Baileys with ice waiting for him at the finishing line, taking the sprint to take the win. But no Scott today. Far too lumpy for Scott. Far too lumpy for a lot of the no-pins guys by the looks of it. Even the course designer himself decided that tonight's not for him. Too lumpy. He's deciding to put his feet up, watching the telly. No doubt he's got Netflix on at the moment, watching one of their brilliant series as he watches these rides putting themselves through the pain on the Steins. Jan Vanner doing well, working hard with Ostergaard and Ruzinek from the Canadian. These three, are they going to split up, or are they going to stay together? And look at that 20.5% incline. That's certainly not pretty. It's certainly not going to tickle. It's certainly going to hurt. Caruso there in 13th position, chasing these guys down. We can see that gap. It's only 15 meters. 50 meters to the team ahead, so you can just about see them in the distance, but 50 meters is a long way on these climbs. To be able to close that gap up takes a lot of effort, and Caruso just doesn't seem to have the legs at the moment. Currently sitting in the green zone, he knows that it's going to take a huge effort to get there, and he doesn't seem to want to do it. So that front group, as we predicted, gradually whittling down. We now are down to 5 riders in this front group, with Wouter Claes there. He's just off the back there, working hard to try and get back on in that orange zone. She's working above threshold, but DW in the orange zone. As Valti in the red, Maud in the red, Klaus in the orange. Is that going to be enough to get Wouter back on track, or is his front pack going to power away from him, taking it down to the last 5, with probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 inclines to go? So we may well see this last climb being one solo rider taking it to the finish. If you were to put your money on it, who would it be? Pedersen there losing the wheel of Costa, kind of going very solo. So in these although Delhi's coming up with a selection of sandwiches, sausage rolls, and of course a beautiful orange and black salami sausage for Costa to try and track down with Pedersen. Klaus Behring, ECKD. ECKD have certainly moved up into some new jerseys, and this must be the away strip that they're putting on there today. I do like it. It does remind me of a chocolate lime, as I was saying. Back in the round about the 20s again. You can look at these gaps are already up to 120 meters to the chasing groups. This is what these hilly courses do to you. We're a third of the way through the course, and we're already starting to see significant gaps appearing between these groups. This just shows where the main differential is with these riders. These front riders have just got the ability to hit that power, but sustain it for a length of time. These middle of the road riders, or some of the heavier riders, can sustain that power for short term, but they just can't sustain that power to the top of these hills, and they start to drop off. This is where it takes absolute huge amounts of grit to continue to put yourself into the hurt locker when you've got nobody chased down, you haven't got a pack around you to be able to sit in the draft, and you don't have anybody to push you on to the finish. This is purely down to 100% mental toughness. Although Jan and Ostergaard, they've got the advantages of racing together, this will allow them just to play off each other, work off each other, and be able to maintain the gap to the chasing riders, who are currently 300 meters behind them. Ruzinek's currently 360 meters, but I doubt he's going to make it up, and it's very likely that if these guys can work together, they may well close up to Melvin and Shaik. Although, judging by last week's performances, Melvin and Shaik are going to catch up with Gavash, and they were going to be able to form a 3, and that draft of 3 will undoubtedly make Jan and Ostergaard have to work very hard to pull it back in again. So we can see on the road there, Jan and Ostergaard, they're working hard, but at the front we can see Asvalti, new name, pushing it off the front in the green zone though, so certainly not working too hard. But why does he need to work hard when he's currently on a 0.8 slope? He's currently just getting his recovery 105 beats per minute, so he certainly isn't working hard at all. He's well within his limit of threshold, well within his maximum heart rate, but with a cadence of 0, so we power and heart rate, that'll do for us. Cadence not massively important. We can see how fast he's ticking over. He's ticking those legs over really fast. He's trying to to break that fatigue, keep the legs ticking over. One of the worst they can do with some of these long declines is put the effort up the incline, get yourself into a super tick position and just rest all the way down to the bottom, and then find that your legs have to suddenly wake up again, because right after that downhill you've got this little uphill section, and we can just see that starting to happen there now. Osvaldi having a bit too much of a rest, and these other 4 who were in that front group started to close him down, and he suddenly had to wake his legs up and get working again, and that is definitely not a comfortable thing to do. This front 5 working, are they going to work together, or are they going to try and break it up? Currently got 5 different riders in the front group, 5 different teams represented. Familiar names with Henrik Mard, Fellballer and Kops currently sitting in the top 5, with 2 new names of Osvaldi and DW, who will no doubt be making them work hard. If they've got any sense, these 2 front guys will put it towards these 3 guys. If they looked at the league table, they know that these guys are certainly not playing around. They know that these 3 will want to actually work right to the very end. If nothing else, there's reputation to play for, if not the championship itself. So, looking at the riders on the front 5, they've got Igor Kops currently sitting in first position. 600 points he's got from 6 of his best rides. So that's 6 wins that Igor Kops has got under his belt. Will he be able to get in the magic 7 today to take it to 700 points? Rasmus with 582 points from his 6 rides. John Beams currently on 477, sadly has missed the last 2 races, and Jan Vanner with 443. Henrik Mard on 325, so Henrik's putting himself in a good position to climb himself up the table in the absence of Alex Pledger there today. All 4 of them, all 5 of them. Now this is an interesting, what are these guys going to do? So this is very much where it comes down to, do these guys stick together as a 5 and just try and hold it together over these little bumps and humps before they take on the final couple of painful climbs, or will we see some attacking racing going on? And as predicted, maybe not. Maybe I thought there was a little attack coming in there from Rasmus, but it looks like he's just closing this gap down, and we can see Osvaldi there has just been caught napping, dropping off the back. So we now have a team of 4, and Osvaldi desperately realizing that he's made a mistake and working hard in that red zone to get back in that draft. But on this little downhill section, that's going to be a hard ask. He has to work hard to be able to get down, but looking at that wonderful helicopter cam, he does seem to be just closing that gap down. Will he be able to close it down? He's the only one that's currently in red. These other 4 are certainly giving him a chance to get back in again. They're not pushing the pace, they're not making him suffer, but he's certainly in the suffer zone. Oh, well done. He has managed to get himself back into the pack, and Rasmus Fellballer very kindly offering to give him a wheel just to bring him back into the pack, making a race of it. And this is no doubt because they are from the same team. So, front pack, we've got 2 ECKD riders. We've got Henrik Mard, who's currently riding for Team Sweden, I believe. Igor Kops, who is currently riding for himself, I believe. I don't know if Igor Kops is part of a team, actually. If you know better, please let me know. I'm not sure. But anyway, Igor is currently stomping away with the Platinum Gold lead at the moment. Back down in 6th position, Uta Kleze currently working with Gavash, Shaik and Melville. So this really doesn't bode well for Jan Vanner and Ostergaard, who are chasing these guys down. So these have formed a 4. Will they be able to stick together? Is Uta Kleze bitten off more than his chew? Is Melville, Shaik and Ash able to get the strength? No, they've managed to team up as a four. So these guys, second group on the road, these guys will be working hard to try and pull that gap away from Ostergaard and Jan Vanna, which we can see they are comfortably doing. Before, that gap was just over 300 meters. It's now extended out to 637 meters. So we can pretty much safely say, bar any major accidents or the guys stopping off for a coffee and a cake down at Mrs. Miggins' tea shop, which is just 10 kilometers down the road, that Jan Vanna and Ostergaard will be working together, racing together, but racing each other for that top 10 spot. There's always something to play for. Their top 10 finish. Who wants it? Who wants the top 10 finish more? Jan Vanna won it, or does Ostergaard won it? We will see, no doubt, in the next half of the race. Jan Vanna, we know, has got a strong sprint. He's more of a sprinter rather than a climber, but he's currently sitting there ticking away. Both of them are ticking that comfortable red-green zone, so neither of them are working hard. They know that they've got another uphill section coming very soon, which the front group are just hitting. As we can see, that's 7.4%. They are just hitting that front group. We are no doubt going to see that starting to rise. The second group also hitting that initial climb at 6.2%. These guys are currently just over 100 meters behind that front group, so it's not completely out of reach. If this front pack don't actually keep the wits about them, this chasing four have got a good chance to close it down. But I suspect that these front five are probably far too experienced to be able to give this time away as they cross the halfway point with just over 18.8 kilometers to go. That gap is definitely foreshortening. We can see this four are obviously working hard together to close this gap down. So they've got every chance on this flat section here. So we're now coming up to a really nice flat section. If these guys rotate this lead, if these guys rotate this work, and that front group isn't watching carefully, we could have a front group made up of 9 riders and not the 5 that we currently have. So let's see whether we see those numbers ticking down or whether we see them gradually ticking up. Front 5 still continuing to work together. Nobody really wanting to attack at the moment, but I think they are probably all going to leave it for those last 2 climbs for any serious attacks to occur. This might be playing right into the chasing group's hand as these guys just play around with each other, get themselves into a position where they're able to recover. No doubt halfway down the race, some of them may be thinking about taking an energy gel roundabout now. Some of them might be leaving it until they get to the top of this hill. This is where timing and refueling really matters. Legs will be starting to feel some of these climbs and efforts so far. They want to try and get these legs well recovered so they can really smash those last couple of red zones. Jan Vanna and Ostergaard coming up to the halfway zone. Not too far behind, but we can see on the road itself that gap is now gone up to 826 meters, so almost a kilometer behind, with Ruzinek still behind them. And is Ruzinek closing that gap down? He's currently hitting 5.1 watts per kilogram in comparison to Jan and Ostergaard's 4.0, so he's certainly putting the effort out, he's certainly put the power out. Maybe he's got a little catch of second wind, maybe he's got enough in the tank to be able to close it down and make it a 3-up trio. Stevie Cooper, 13th position, managed to break away, so managing to ride on his own. So this is going to be pretty much a solo ride now for Stevie. He's got to work hard to keep away from one. Oh no, Walter Clays. Walter, what is this, a technical fault? This is a disaster for Walter. He was riding so well, riding so strongly, and it looks like he's had a technical. So this is disastrous for that chaser group. This just means that from 4 they're down to 3, and to try and close down that gap that seems to be increasing is going to be superbly difficult for them now that they've lost one of their stronger riders. That's such a disappointment because it would have been great to see this 4 making a challenge to chase down that front group. I'm so sorry for you, Wouter. Hopefully nothing serious, just a chain off. Maybe you've dropped your baklava that you had tucked in your jersey for your halfway food, and you just had to have a bit of that gooey goodness before getting back on the bike again. Let's see if Wouter manages to get going. Bashike now taking the front of this chasing group. He's certainly taking it to them. He's certainly not going to let it go. And now we're starting to see some attacking there. So are starting to see some attacking at the front. So unlike many of the other racing platforms, RGT really does lay us up quite nicely to downhill attacks. Sometimes it's a really good place to attack on RGTs when you hit the downhills. This is where we can often see these breaks occurring. And if you get that 2 or 3 races riding away, and if you're the one who's caught sleeping, before you know it, you're out the draft. And this draft is absolutely brutal in RGT. If you're out the draft, you have to work so hard to get back in. And I no doubt we're going to see Rasmus Felballer there having to work hard to close that draft down, as he was just kicked out the back of being on the side. In RGT, not only is the draft harsh out the back, if you find yourself on the side of that pack, that draft makes you work exceptionally hard to stay in the pack. Sometimes it's easier just to ease off the pace a little bit, get yourself back in the draft of the riders and put that little bit of effort in, which is what we can see Valti doing there. Maybe he was caught off the side. He wants to get back in because he really wants to help his teammate Rasmus to a good finish, and hopefully, I'm fairly sure, if nothing else, to try and take a little bit of pride out of Igor Kops and really challenge himself. The best thing he can do is stay on the road, because if he stays on the road, there's a good opportunity that he may well take that top spot. If Igor Kops has a disastrous failure like we saw unfortunate Klaus have recently. Osvaldi now taking it off the front. Maybe some team instructions yet to take it off the front, really making it work hard. No, Wouter Claes, I think his race is over. Dead as a duck on the Steins. Sniper got him from the bushes. Can't find his back lever. He's done for, which is such a shame. It would have been great to see this 4 races chase these 5 guys down. Igor Kops looking comfortable, although pulls for 164, power at 445 watts. So that's a comfortable little climb up this little digger. 164 beats per minute for a rider of Igor Kops' stature. That's working hard, but certainly, undoubtedly, nowhere near his max heart rate. Unless, of course, he's as old as I am, which I very much doubt he is, as he rocks it off the front, continuing to work and chasing down Osvaldi, who's currently now got a 30-meter advantage over these 3. So continuing to work hard on that orange zone, certainly not making it easy for these guys chasing. We are undoubtedly starting to see this front pack just stretching out. We have Osvaldi leading the conga line, with Kops, DW, Henrigward and Felballer doing the conga behind them. No doubt shuffling across the floor to try and get back in touch with the Argentinian Uruguayan, which they've done quite comfortably. So back to 5. Front. It's having just a wee check of the world flags just to see whether this is an actual Argentinian or I think it might be Uruguay flag there. So, if you do know, please do let me know. Oh, Damon, behind the scenes, man, if your geography is better than mine, don't be afraid to correct me. Any kind of correction on the world flags is always great. Jan Vanna, Belgium, know that one. And Ostergaard, Norwegian, definitely still working hard there. Still on that two riders. They're now only chasing 3 with Wouter Claes off the road. So they're now just chasing down Gava, Scheik and Melville up ahead of them. That could give them a little bit of an incentive. But now joined by Rusinek. So Rusinek managed to make it 3. So will this 3 be able to chase down that front 3? They'll certainly, I'd expect them to stay away from Stevie Cooper, unless Stevie Cooper puts in a sterling effort to get back in front there. 3rd group on the road with Maillard, Buren, Helveg and Brask. Brask is someone who's been there or thereabouts, put some early efforts in the last race, couldn't manage to hold on for very long, got about a really good efforts in the first third of the race, and then died off as the race went on. Currently working hard in 80th position. Still, top 20, which is good enough for this. And we can see, actually great to see Wouter Claes has managed to get his engine back again. His puncture's fixed, his back lever's down, he's got the stickiness off his fingers, gloves back on, head down, here we go. But he's got a huge effort ahead of him. So he's got bearing alongside him, no doubt. CKD, they will be working together. Any sense these guys will work together to try and pull it back in. Wouter will definitely be working hard with them, so it's a good name for these guys to stay ahead of them. We know that he's going to do a fair amount of work, but is he going to be able to do enough to get himself into a top 20 position? With Dupin 200 meters ahead, Caruso, the attacking Italian, in 19th place at the moment. So will these guys be able to close them down to get in that top 20 where everybody wants to try and get, particularly in these races where it means you're finishing in at least the top half of the ride? Front five, back up to five again, are currently just working back and forwards. Another little dig coming up, and I'm fairly sure we're not going to see any massive efforts up this little dig here unless somebody decides to off the go. And there we've got DW putting a little bit of effort in, but a bit too late. Felbala's doing a little bit of rocking and rolling around the back. Rasmus, no doubt, has got his disco lights on again. It'd be great to see whether Rasmus is on the Zoom call. I don't think he is, otherwise I'm fairly sure we would have seen his beautiful Danish looks on the screen. I don't know, I probably maybe just run out of fancy dress this week. Rasmus there having to work hard. That gap just increased. He's got a habit of doing this, as Rasmus. He just like just dropping off, just putting on a show for this wonderful RGT crowd that we have watching this fantastic No Pins Super League Series 2 right through to its conclusion, which we'll be seeing in the next 13 kilometers. So will this five be cresting this climb together as a five? It looks like they will. Looks like these guys are going to crest the five. I don't think any of them look in any real danger of being dropped off the back unless we get a technical. And at the moment, that doesn't seem to be happening. So 6.9%, red numbers coming up. Everyone wants to work hard. This is where nobody wants to get dropped, so everybody puts the effort in. Because everybody puts the effort in, everybody else puts the effort in. And you see all of these red numbers suddenly switching from rider to rider to rider as they're desperately trying to not get dropped up this final little bit before getting a massive big area of recovery, and then that final very painful finish to the end. So it looks like this five are going to crest together. Indeed they are, hitting the flat section now, right on the downhill, minus 2.7%. So literally it's whee all the way down for the next few kilometers. Will somebody be brave enough to put a downhill attack in? Put a downhill attack here, 2 or 3 riders. Try and get the jump on somebody who's just not paying attention or just trying to get a bit of recovery, and you could actually make that stick. It certainly works on a one-to-one basis in RGT. Whether it will work as a bigger group, not quite so sure. And thankfully, my wonderful broadcaster Damon from ZMS Streams has just as equal brilliant knowledge on world flags as I do. So as we can see on the road now, we've got this chasing group of Gavash, Bashayak and Melville who are working hard. I'm just having a quick no, it's not the Uruguay flag. I managed to work that out. The Argentinian flag. I was right the first time, so it is the Argentinian flag, currently held by Osvaldi. So currently the Osvaldi, the RG, currently leading the front. Gavash, Shaik, Melvin, unfortunately losing Wouter Claes, kind of currently chasing down. They've got a kilometre gap between them and the front group, so they can wave that chase back to the front group goodbye. What they want to try and do now is see whether the two of them can drop one of those riders, and we can see there Gavash and Melville trying desperately to drop Shaik. Will they be able to do it or not? Ruzinek worked hard to get on the back of Ostergaard and Jan Vanna. Will they let him stay there? Will they let him stay there? Or will one of them try and put on a little attack to try and break this Canadian's back? See if they can send him back to where he was in a 12th place with a gap between the two of them. But it looks like these three are going to be cresting together, enjoying the descent together. Stevie Cooper still continuing to chase him down, keeping that gap comfortably at 300 odd meters. But as we hit this downhill, the the superb power of the draft of the free riders will undoubtedly be too strong for Stevie Cooper to maintain that gap, and we will see that gap gradually creeping open, making Stevie have a nice solo run in right to the end. Oram and Krajewski, they're working as a two. Always good to work as a two. They're just going to try and keep away from Biram and Brask, who are just behind them, and Maillard, who are in a three. They've managed to drop one of the riders. And we can see that front group, as we said might happen. One of the riders has decided, as Valti, the Argentinian, working off the front. This is perfect for Rasmus. Rasmus doing the sensible thing. Look at that blue zone, just sitting in the draft, not chasing his teammate down. Just sitting there, letting everybody else chase him down. If Osvaldi gets lucky, manages to get a good break off of this front five, then he can actually make the stick for the rest of the race, because he can just ride away, particularly as we get to the uphill sections. If he's got a good watts per kilogram, maybe he's a light rider, then he will be able to hold this gap to the front. Rasmus doing the sensible thing, just sitting in the draft, and I'm fairly sure we'll not see Rasmus hitting the front of this pack of four in any hurry, as he lets these guys do the work to try and chase his teammate down. But will any one of them want to take it on? Will all three of them just sit and wait for Kops, DW or Henrik Mard to try and close down the ECQD rider? Rasmus, no doubt, having a little laugh to himself at the moment, sitting pretty, just letting his teammate ride away with now 180 meters advantage over this front four, this front five, this chasing four. If that gets out to 250 meters, this is going to be difficult for this chasing four to chase him down, and it's currently creeping up all of the time, even though they've got the power of the draft. As Valti continues to push the effort, 4.8 watts per kilogram in comparison to the 1.8, 1.30 and 1.6 watts per kilogram in the chasing four. So even though he's on the downhill section, he's really managing to push his effort. Currently 58, 65 kilometers per hour down this downhill section. What does that compare with the speed of the chasing four? Have they managed to hit the same dizzy heights of 65 kilometers an hour? If they have, then that gap might be closing down. If they haven't, this gap will slowly open up. Currently sitting in 182 meters. He's managing to maintain the gap. Not quite 200 meters yet, but if he has a bit of a breather now, gets himself onto this bottom flat section and starts to grind away at a bit for effort, it's certainly going to make this front group, now the second chasing group on the road, as Valti rides away from them, have to work hard to get him down. Now Valti currently still ticking at 105 heart rate, so either he's got a bit of a dicky ticker, or he's but you know, to be fair, ticker is a great heart rate monitor. Got one myself, love it. Straps come apart though, which is a shame, but the actual recorder itself is doing well. So I don't know what quite going on with Osvaldi there. His heart rate hasn't shifted much from 105. I'm fairly sure he's not that relaxed. He's cadence on 0. So there's obviously some data mistakes there. Now that could go against his favour if we can't verify this chap's effort. This might all be in vain, but this might be certainly playing into his teammate Rasmus Feldballer's advantage, as he just sits there, super drop position, getting himself pretty, looking nice, just managing to get himself into that draft of that chasing four, letting the rest of the guys work hard. Igor Kops does not need to do the attacking. He can quite happily sit in. So at this four chasing pack, you've got Rasmus, who's currently sitting second in the field with a teammate up ahead of him. You've got Igor Kops, who currently sits first in the table, who's got no teammates ahead of him. DW and Henrik Mard, both, if they are going to get some points in the table, have got something to race for, and they really do have to work hard to make this work for them to get some points. So we would expect Rasmus Feldballer and Igor Kops just to sit back behind these two, Henrik Mard and DW, allowing them to do all the work, and while they're doing that, that allows Osvaldi to continue to ride away from this chasing four. The other two will be letting, so this is a 2 versus 2, more or less. Who's going to make that first break? So we now come this flat section. We're under 10 kilometers to go. We've got less than 7 kilometers to go, but as we can see from the course profile, The majority of these 7 kilometers are painful uphill red zone riding, and I'm fairly sure what we will see is not only will we see the red on the incline, we will see some red in the power numbers as these riders start to rustle and bustle and work hard. So Osvaldi continuing to work hard there. He's got 360 watts there, currently working at 5.2 watts per kilogram. Certainly pulling away from this chasing 4, but I'm not entirely sure that his setup is quite as robust as the rest of the guys chasing, and maybe these guys can see that. Maybe these guys have spotted that, the fact that Osvaldi is currently putting out wattages with 0 cadence and 105 beats per minute. So interesting to see what's going out there. Maybe they know that Osvaldi isn't actually in the running for this. Maybe they know that he is not going to be kind of classified at this finish. Maybe they know that what they're racing for are the top 4 positions, not positions 2 to 5. Or maybe they just are quite happy to race amongst the 4, racing it as a 2 versus 2. Igor Kops and Rasmus Feldball are currently sitting pretty on the top 2 of the table, and DW and Henrik Mard currently have got lots to work for to get some points on the board. Who's your money in, guys? Who do you think is going to be putting in the efforts to be able to take this final couple of climbs, which we know are coming up very soon? Will we see somebody go early on this first climb? Will we see everybody just trying to pace that first bit to really put the hammer down on the second climb? This is all down to tactics now. People will be starting to think about where their legs are. If you're feeling good now is a good time to put that attack in. Maybe start really seeing who you can break, get that little bit of recovery, and then just hoping that you've managed to outgas the rest of them and be able to hang on, gritting your teeth, clenching your bum, getting as much energy through that muscular system as you possibly can for that final climb and taking the glory at the top of the steins. We will no doubt see in the next few kilometres. Chasing group now of Gavash, Shaik and Melville, currently taking it relatively easy, none of them working hard, even on this 3.1% incline. They know really that that front pack is now out of their reach, but they also know that they are far enough ahead of Jan Vanner and Ostergaard, who are in the chasing pack along with Rusnik, that they do not have to work hard to maintain that gap. These guys can afford to take it relatively easy now, but come those final couple of climbs, they will definitely be racing for pride. So I have got no doubt at all we'll be not seeing none of this green or blue shenanigans, but these last couple of climbs we'll be seeing nothing other than a bit of orange, a bit of yellow, and no doubt a huge amount of red as we take this 8 series race to a finish and to a fantastic end, to a superbly competitive and very, very aggressive, great racing in the No Pins Super League Season 2. Great to see Wouter Claes there back on the road. He's managed to shake off Caruso, managing to shake off Bering as well. Bering couldn't keep up with him. He's working really hard there. So Klaus now up in the top 20. He's managed to crawl in. Helvig in 20th. Caruso and managing to get a good gap on him as well. Can Caruso pull it back? Can he get back into Claes' draft? If you want to be in a draft, Wouter Claes' draft is somewhere where you would like to be, but hard to stay in there because Wouter's got a good amount of power. But will we see Wouter be able to trace down the likes of Maillard and Brask, who are 600 metres ahead of him, or is that just a little bit of a Brask too far? We will find out, no doubt, in the next 9 kilometres of racing left for these guys, who are currently sitting 1.23 kilometres behind Krajewski in 14th, who's sitting a good 500 metres behind Gavash in 8th, who's sitting another 500 metres behind Rasmus Feldballer in 5th position. This chasing 4 currently 183 metres away from Osvaldi, who is still hitting that 5.0 watts per kilogram. They're on 12.4%. Oh no, Igor Kops. Oh, has he managed to pull it back up? Oh, Ego is on zero now. This could be a disaster for Ego. How on earth is it? Oh, he's back up again now. This is going to be interesting. Let's just stick with Ego. See whether he manages to get. That's a horrible place to have a drop right on that initial climb. Right now, will this three in front of him? Are they going to do the gentlemanly thing? Let him gap back in, knowing that he's probably had a technical failure, or are they going to do what any good selfish racer would do? Realize that they're now three against that one, turn the screw and really pull the plug on Ego Cops' race. Feldbella will be having that lovely moral dilemma with herself. Should I stay or should I go? What would you do if it was you? Ego, they're having a horrible drop. Now currently 59 meters behind this front three, and he doesn't seem to be making a huge amount of a dent into them, even though he's currently pushing 5.1 watts per kilogram. The guys ahead of him pushing 3.6, and then there's only a 3.7% slope. This means that they've got a bit of a draft. This allows this three to just pull that gap up. As you can see, 64 meters, even though Ego is pulling out more power. That little draft that we're seeing in this sub 5% climb, allowing these three riders to open that gap up. But we know Ego has it in his legs. We know he has the ability. We know he has the mental agility, and we know he has the resilience to continue to put this power down. We've seen that in the 6 races that he's won. He will not be letting these 3 guys just ride away from him. When this starts to go up again, we will undoubtedly see Ego really start to put the power down and really start to try and rein in this 3 in front of him, who currently are 27 meters ahead of him, and that gap is gradually coming down. No doubt a little technical failure, this will sting a bit. He will certainly be burning some matches to get back onto this 3, particularly now that he's in a 9.4% slope. They've got no draft, he's got no draft, so this is all in the legs. But this gives this chasing 3, the chance to pull away. But we can see that gap physically closing down. 12.1% we're on now. Everybody is hitting those red zones. Ego Cops still in the yellow, pacing himself back up to the group, being very sensible. This is clever racing by Ego. He's just pacing himself back to the group. He knows there's no draft to be had. He knows there's no hurry for him to get back into this 3, because none of them are currently getting the draft, so nobody is helping each other out. He can just tippy-tappy it back in there. As long as he continues to hold more power than the guys in front, which he's doing at the moment, he knows that gap will close and he will be back on track. And there you go. Ego, after his little technical failure, is back on track with those 3 guys. Back up to a chasing 4, chasing down Osvaldi in the front, who continues to pull out that gap to 200 meters. Gavash in 8th position on the right hand screen there, currently just dropping off Shaik and Melville. So Gav's really struggling to see this hill starting to take his toll. Melville just managing to hold off Shaik. Now we could see Shaik was actually a really strong attacking rider on the flats last week. Maybe being a bit heavier, he's managing to struggle. Although heart rate 155, certainly not taking it easy. Whereas Melville, heart rate 176, working hard to try and open up that gap before his chasing racer of Bas Shaik. Chasing, I keep saying front 4, these guys, are they the front 4? They may well be the front 4, as we see Osvaldi maybe running foul of the authorities in today's race. Looking at his current metrics, doesn't look particularly favourable for him. So this well may be the front 4 actually in the finishing positions. Working hard. Ego Cops now, happy to be back in with that front 4. Just taking it easy now, that last little bit of section. This last little bit of flat, only 3 kilometers to go. 3 kilometers isn't a long way until you start hitting these massively big inclines, and this incline at the very end of the race manages to get up to 10% in sections. The full climb is nearly 3 miles long and its average is over 7%, but the final 0.8 miles is the steepest sustained section. And this averages, this last 0.8 miles, which, you know, in modern terms is about 1.3 kilometers, averages over 10%. So once we get to this last half of this last section of the race, these riders will not be able to just tickle it back up there. We're going to see every single one of these four hitting the red and orange zones. Back in the 11th position, Vanna, Ostergaard and Rusinek sticking together really nicely here. These guys are working well together as a three. They're certainly working hard enough to, they really got Gavish in their sights. Will they be able to pull him in? Stevie Cooper is doing an astounding job. He's got a three rider group ahead of him and he's managing to maintain this gap, and if anything else, he's closed this gap down. Stevie Cooper, it was over 300 meters, but he's managed to close it down to 200 meters or so. Stevie Cooper, you know, he could be the rider of the day if he manages. If he pulls this gap down, Stevie Cooper is definitely getting a big, massive big bar of my finest white Toblerone, the giant one. That's definitely coming his way. I'll make that. So Stevie, get your legs on. Let's chase this three down. Get yourself the rider of the day competition. I've just made it up. But there are some great prizes on offer for all of these riders. No Pain's very generously offering their prizes to the riders and the teams there today. So it's certainly nothing to be sniffed at. This is why these races are being taken very seriously. So they're sponsoring the event and they're providing a customized designed Sub-Zero jersey. If you've never experienced a Sub-Zero jersey, give it a go. It's a jersey that's specifically designed for indoor riding, with more pockets that you can shake a stick at for putting ice packs in, gels in, baklava in, and of course your nice funky pink shades that Rasmus can put in his top pocket when he's not smashing it up the hill against these fellow RGT racers. So certainly all to play for all of these riders. Ego Cops desperately wants to get that jersey, but still being chased down by Felbeler, who wants that top jersey pocket for his sunglasses. Bas Scheik now, has he got that little bit of a gap to Melville, 120 meters, so maybe Bas has kind of turned around. Melville had a bit of a gap up that little bit of incline. Bas has managed to turn it around to a 70 meters advantage. This means that Melville's going to have to work hard to close it down. Which one of them's paced it nicely? Which one of them has left something in the legs to be able to stay in that top 6 position? Is it Scheik? Is it Melville? Or will we see Gav Ash with the resurgence managing to close these guys back up? We know Gav can climb. Will Gav be able to close these gaps down? Close these two back up again. James Melville there, currently 332 watts, 83, so spinning it up there. A well-seasoned climber with golden rules. One of the golden tips that I remember when climbing is get your hands on the handlebars and relax your fingers like they're playing the piano, like Stevie Wonder. And then when you get to the top, it's celebration time. When you get to the top, as you've managed to tinkle the ivories, as you relax your hands on those handlebars. Who will be currently relaxing and tickling the ivories and their handlebars on there right now? Which one of them will be chewing the handlebars to get to the top of this last 1.8 kilometers? And as we saw there before, once they start getting inside that 1.3 kilometers, it is not even going to go below a 10% incline. So Scheik and Melville have got that joy yet to come as they ride 360 meters behind this chasing or front four, depending on how you want to view the positions on the road. Osvaldi there now, coming up to the Flamme Rouge, 1 kilometer to go, dropping down below 5 watts per kilogram, taking it easy, but still ticking along at 0 cadence. Heart still ticking along at 105. And now we can see Rasmus Felbeler just start to drop off. His efforts have really put him in that position. He knows now that it's very unlikely that he's going to be able to close this gap down. 61% to get back onto this front 3 now will take a huge effort now. He just has to dig in, keep himself away from Scheik, who can see that Rasmus will be now on his own, a lone wolf, ready to be pounced on Will Rasmus be able to keep those efforts up? He's obviously suffering because he's not able to get into the orange or the red zone. He's currently sitting in the green. Henrik Mard now taking it to the rest of them. Having a bit of a breather though before he gets the Flamme Rouge. So we know they've got 1 kilometre to go, and as they hit that lovely red banner, that incline just pops itself back up again into 17.7%. Nearly 20%, and anything above anything round about 20% is certainly not comfortable. Osvaldi there deciding that that's it, race is over. He's finally realised that there's probably no point in continuing on. He will be disqualified, and just to try and save himself that embarrassment, he decided to pull himself over, take some beautiful panoramic photographs of the wonderful scenery from the top of this climb there. It is currently at 873 meters, a beautiful vista over the Yorkshire moors as Rasmus comes up to him. No doubt as he's coming up 20 meters from him, we'll give him a good slap on the back for his efforts as his ECKD teammate, which I'm assuming he is wearing the jersey, or giving him a little clip around the back of the head for the cheek of wearing the ECK jersey without recording a good heart rate. Igor Kops, we can see Igor now, who we know has got a strong sprint, also starting to drop off this front too. So as we said before, we had a very much 2 versus 2 competition going on. We had Igor Kops leading the Platinum Gold competition, Rasmus Felballer who was in second place, and then we had Henrik Mard who had nothing to race for in the top 3, and DW from France. So Sweden against France for the finishing ride. We've got under 600 meters to go. Not at any point are we going to see that incline drop below 10%. So we will now see these riders probably with these last 500, 600 meters to go. I'd be very surprised if we see either of them dropping anything below this orange effort level. Oh, seeing that DW has a bit of a breather, gets back up into Henrik Mard's wheel, but there's no draft to be had. 7.6%. There's no draft to be had. There's nothing to be had by resting here. And if you're not careful, if you just drop off that wheel, you will actually see it right away. Both of these riders now starting to just set themselves up for this finish. Igor Kops knows that these 2 riders are definitely riding away from him. Currently 3.8 watts per kilogram. Rasmus Felballer, kind of bit of a resurgence there. He's got 200 meters ahead of the chasing Scheik and Melville chasing him, knowing that Igor Kops now is only 130 meters ahead of him, currently with 300 meters to go. Will Rasmus be thinking, I can get this lad, I'm going to get this lad on the line, I have nothing else, I'm going to get a little bit of pride? Or will Igor Kops just play with the Danish man and make sure that he just pips him to the line? So we're coming into that last 300 meters. You have the desperation, the temptation now is to hit this power early, get yourself in the red zone. It's 17.8, 20.1% incline. The temptation is to go, you've got 200 meters to go, classic sprinting distance. But you have to remember that this sprinting distance is over a massive effort. Now look at this, flattening out, back up again. So we're going to see that slope up and down. We've got less than 140 meters to go. Which one of these riders is going to hit that red and take this? DW hits the red first. Henrik Mard, does he have anything left? Is he? Henrik Mard now into the red. Is DW? Can he respond? Are we going to see this yo-yoing back and forwards? We are indeed. DW with a strong finish. Has Henrik got anything left to pull it down? No, beautifully timed by DW. Just managing to pip Henrik Mard to the line. Great racing by those 2 on that last 100 and odd meters. And we've got Igor Kops coming with only 120 meters to go. No doubt managing to hold off Rasmus Felballer into 4th place, who we can see both of them have dropped their power down to 3.4, 3.5 watts per kilogram. They know that they've got the position in the bag. They know they've got the points in the bag. They know they've got their championship positions in the bag for another wonderful season of the No Pins R3R Super League Series, brought to you from all around the world. And we've had a fantastic series as Igor goes over in the podium position for 3rd position. Rasmus Felballer, one of the most attacking riders that we've seen in the whole of the series, did not certainly get a chance to do any superb attacking today. Not his territory today, Erasmus, not kind of his race for attacking, but managing to hold on for a good strong 4th position and cementing his position in the podium for the Platinum Gold League indeed. Rasmus Valverde, 177 metres to go, 8.1% coming across the line in less than 50 metres. Just ticking over nicely. No need for him to go in that red zone now. He's done his work. He's done his effort. He's done his 8 weeks of graft. He certainly deserved that position. He can now start licking the life out of that chocolate lime jersey he's got on, making sure he doesn't cut his tongue as he does so. By Shike, looks like he's managed to hold off Julian Melvin there to 5th position. He looked like he was just flagging for a bit. Melvin looked like he had him on the hill on that first hill, but Shike paced himself nicely. Another great finish by Baz after his superb efforts last week in the flatter race that we saw them racing around last week. And the wine country in California of Temecula last week. Baz was superb with that, and he's managing to come across the line in a very good 5th position. Melville, again last week, put in a superb amount of effort last week, did Melville, managing to come across after a good bit of a play there with his competitor Shike coming up into 6th position. The two of them managed to ride away from Gavash, and Gavash is now starting to pull that down, but I don't think he's quite going to be able to close that gap up there today. Melville coming across in 6th position. Good race for the Scot. Currently ticking over. It is 960 metres climbed, 37.49 kilometres race. Gavash, great to see Gav really attacking there today on those early parts of the climb. Gav putting in a lot of work early on to really break that front group, and we could see, as we expected, that front group whittling down, and we can certainly attribute a lot of that to Gavash's early attacks, where we saw that front group breaking down very, very early on. Gav was really attacking from the yard in a good finish. So Ruzinek managing, after chasing down Jan Vanna and Ostergaard, riding away from them. He's now got 38 metres over Jan Vanna, but we know that Jan has got a fantastic sprint. So 324 metres to go. Let's just keep an eye on that finishing table on the right hand side. Let's keep an eye on Ruzinek. Let's see if we can see Jan Vanna coming up behind him. Can we see whether Jan from Belgium is going to be able to get that sprint finish into play? Will he be able to track him down, or has Ruzinek done enough to hold it up? 28 metres. This is certainly going to be a tight finish. Jan Vanna now into the red. He can see the Canadian up ahead of him. There's only 37 metres Canadian hitting the flat section. Has Jan got anything left? Has he got anything in those sprint legs to be able to take it to the line? Or will Ruzinek be able to tap it away? Will he be able to match him what for what? Will he be able to match him power for power to be able to hold that distance to the line? Let's stick with these two and let's see how this pans out. 170 metres to go. There's Ruzinek up ahead. Has he got enough road? Is he going to run out of road before he can track this Canadian down? Oh, Ruzinek putting in a good dig. 6.3 watts per kilogram, making sure that he takes that 8th position on the road after chasing down Vanna and Ostergaard into 10th position. Jan Vanna, valiant effort by Jan. A superb series by Jan there today. Certainly getting plenty of points on the board. We will see whether that's enough to topple John Beams, who currently sits in 3rd position in the Platinum Gold. Into 3rd position in the bronze position in the Platinum Gold League. Will Jan have done enough there to overcome that and overturn that? We will see when the official results come in. Ostergaard worked very hard alongside Jan Vanna there today, but Jan Vanna just manages to pull away from him towards the end, but into a top 10 finish. So that top 10, we can just see there's still some gaps between the riders, and as this course expectedly showed, is that we had those gaps getting progressively bigger and bigger and bigger as those hills took the toll on every single one of these riders. Really does start to filter out these strong riders. Stevie Cooper, thankfully my white giant Toblerone is safe in my tub cupboard next to my couple Horlicks, which I'll be enjoying thoroughly on this bank holiday Monday before getting back to work tomorrow. Stevie Cooper just managed not to make it back to Rusinek and crew, but an absolutely superb ride from Stevie Cooper. Manages to keep that gap. It's 300 metres all the way through to the end. Wouter Clays very unfortunately had that drop. Had we not seen Wouter have that technical, undoubtedly we would have seen that three who were chasing down the front pack really starting to make them some inroads, because they were starting to chase him down. But it was a long drop for Wouter. He obviously had quite a good technical. I'm fairly sure he just unplugged it, switched it off at the wall, switched it back off again, waited for it to reboot, had an espresso, picked his gel out. I think he's probably, being a Belgian, probably favoured his dark chocolate gel, sickly as hell, to get himself back on the road and then coming back to chasing it down. Starting off when he managed to get that drop in about 23rd position, he's just slowly crept his way back up into the top 12, which is an absolutely astounding effort from Wouter there. Look, he's managed to make up over a kilometre on the 20th place position of Helweg in 20th to be able to come up in 12th. That's an absolutely superb recovery. Probably the second half is ride of the day there for me, just to put in that amount of effort for that bit. So, last race of the series in 12th position. What we will do is we will watch this to the end, right the way down to P20, currently Helweg. We will see it through to the end, the top 20, and then we will make sure that we bring you all the official finishes in the top 20 of this absolutely brutal 8th and final leg of the No Pins R3R Super League Series 2. Will we be back? Well, maybe you can tell us that. Maybe Wahoo, sitting there watching this brilliant ZMS stream, will be able to see what an amazingly good platform of racing that they have inherited, and be able to pump some real good cash into it to really take this from strength to strength. And no doubt we will see more of these wonderful RGT races starting to move to the platform, starting to give us some fantastic racing and some fantastic broadcasting that we can continue to bring to you as we do live every week for multiple races, multiple time zones, and some brilliant broadcasting, some great commentary from some of our co-commentators on ZMS this week. So if you haven't already tuned in, make sure you tune in to many other of the ZMS broadcasts. You will be undoubtedly very happy with the quality of the broadcast, and also some of the broadcasting, which is fantastic. Obviously, no one as good as myself there, Jolly Jody. Unfortunately not joined by my co-host of Matt today. I'm fairly sure he's enjoying his bank holiday on the Isle of Man, lapping it up. And Tim Burden, who's joined me in this series as well. And if you haven't heard already, please do download Tim's wonderful broadcast, the Taylor Swift Fan Club podcast. Nothing to do with Taylor Swift, all to do with Taylor Swift and online riding. Not so much about Zwift, but just being a virtual racer, being a virtual rider, and a huge amount of philosophy. If you're into philosophy, that's the podcast for you. So, Caruso there, the Italian stallion who was really attacking last week, coming over into 13th place. We've got Birra in there. Certainly earned his little bit of Birra there as Birram up ahead. But Will Oram, who is currently 18 metres behind him. Look at them both tete-a-tete with the red. Birram knows that he's got a right race on his hand here. He looks like he's actually went past Oram now. Does have Oram got anything left in the tank? Does he have enough to be able to respond? Or is Birram going to just turn the screw, put the torque down on the pedals, take himself down. But has he gone too early? 234 meters to go. Is Oram just playing a cagey here? Is he just sitting there just waiting for that final attack? Is he letting Biren burn himself out? Is Oram now going to attack in this last section? Currently, we've got 34 meters. Has he got anything left? Has he got anything left to give? Can he overcome this last 130 meters of this last 8th and final episode of the No Pins Super League Series? Biren in the yellow zone. As Oram managing to respond, 4.2 watts per kilogram. But Oram, we're going to need to see more than that. We're going to need 6 or 7 if you're going to overcome this gap. Biren sees it safely across the line for 14th place. Oram just obviously the desire was there, but the legs just weren't there to be able to take him ahead. But taking a nice comfortable 15th position ahead of Maillard, who we saw mixing it last week with the front group for a while. Xavier doing a good job, managing to get himself, the Belgian, in the top 20 yet again. Great effort from Xavier there today, riding alongside Oram from Denmark. Brask, who we know has been attacking, particularly in the front third of these races. Finn, he always finishes. Oh, no, Finn. Oh, very nearly there. Very nice. Squeaky bum moment there for Finn. Almost having a disastrous failure towards the end. Maybe just stopping to pick up the Danish flag, waving it behind him as he crosses the line in 17th position. Krajewski, another name that we've seen, a familiar name we've seen racing in the series, a very valiant and very frequent attender. Krajewski currently sitting in the top 10 position, so no doubt he has absolutely cemented his position in the top 10 this platinum gold season today, with Helveg currently in 19th position behind him, but he's got a good 150 meters section between the two of them. So I'd be very surprised if Helveg manages to pull that gap down any lower than it is at the moment. But each one of these riders have turned up, they've put the effort in, and they have seen it right through to the end. So every single one of these riders to be in this top 10 in this Platinum Gold series is a fantastic achievement, because these certainly have not been easy rides. Back down into 20th position, Kraglund. Bering is just fading from the pace. Klaus Bering does he have enough to get in this top 20? That magical top 20. Everybody wants to be anything above that ends in a 0. So will Bering be able to take it to his national colleague, or will Kraglund be able to hold him off? There's Krajewski there, 18th position. Looks like he is undoubtedly going to take 18th relatively comfortably. He's got a good 150 meters ahead of his competitor Helveg just behind him. We'll see Krajewski just crossing the line, 150 meters, currently ticking along at only 2.6 watts per kilogram, so he's cruising in there. He's enjoying the plaudits from the crowd in this beautiful Yorkshire countryside atop of this 953 meters climb, enjoying the plaudits as he takes it across the line. Every single one of the crowd, who just seem to have gone for a bit of Yorkshire tea there, I think, just to wave him into the finish line. But Krajewski 18th on the field there today, 10th in the series overall. So a good series for Krajewski. Let's hope to see him again very soon. And no doubt we will see a third, I hope, series from the Super League guys from No Pins. But if not that, we will certainly undoubtedly see something else. So now we come up to the trio. Actually, we've got a quartet of Danish riders. Let's stick with these front three. We've got Helveg, Kraglund, Bering, all vying for this top 20 position. Kraglund has got 5 meters. Oh, there's Kraglund managing to get past Helveg. Has Helveg got anything in response? Is he going to be able? That's a fantastic attack from Kraglund. Kraglund was only literally 30 meters ahead of Bering at one point. He's managed to put a fantastic effort there to overcome his national colleague Helveg in taking 19th position, meaning that Helveg is our 20th rider to cross the line today. with Bearing. Let's see Bearing in. Good effort by Bearing there today. Let's see him across the line in that beautiful lime green journey. And then we will go to the finishing positions on the road today. So Bearing continuing to work, 2.8 watts per kilogram. Just, he knows he's got nobody to chase now. He knows he's got plenty of space on his national colleague there, Simonsen, who continues to be 533 meters behind him. And we can see as we go down that field, just those gaps get progressively bigger and bigger. So 21st across the road. Let's just see how those results panned out today for that 8th and final race. So we could see from the start, it was just a hard race from the start. Gavash taking it forwards, but we see Damon W, DW taking the win from Hendrik Gard. Those two were certainly pushing it hard against the remainders. Ego Cops with a hard break and drop at one point, managing to pull it back. Rasmus just couldn't hold on. Great racing by Baz Jelvin and Gavin as well. And then Ruzinek, superb effort by him to overcome Jan Vanner. And then there's Ostergaard, who made the top 10 of that first series, each one of them adding points to their vital league positions. Positions 11 to 20. Steve Cooper, who very nearly made it at the ride of the day there today by Wouter Kliss. Just look where Wouter ended up after literally having enough time to have a cup of tea, a couple of digestives, and actually probably watching an episode of Mrs. Miggins' Pie Shop Blues on Netflix before he managed to get his trainer back up again, get back on the road from 23rd up to 12th. Superb ride by Wouter today. Salvo Caruso very attacking. Biron getting the Biro on Orum. Maillard racing well. Finn Brask finishing strong. Trzaskowski, who's been a very nice consistent rider with us today, overcoming Kragland with a fantastic strong finish, managing to bump his teammate Thomas Hellberg down into 20th position. And that makes the top 20 of the No Pins Super League Series 2. Race 8, final race on the road. So not the numbers we've seen in the races before, but it's always difficult when you have a bank holiday in the UK. But still a very competitive race with some very familiar names, some really attacking riding, but certainly plenty of efforts and a great series by all races here today. Well done to everybody. Thank you very much to Damon and ZMS Streams yet again. Absolutely flawless and spotless broadcast with brilliant coverage. Makes my job commentating an awfully easier when I can always find some action. And thank you everybody who has joined us for the 8 weeks of this wonderful No Pins Super League Series 2. The results will be out very shortly. Stay tuned. Stay online. Keep checking in. See who gets the results. See who gets that wonderful No Pins Sub-Zero shirt. And keep watching ZMS Streams. And you never know, No Pins Super League might be back. But for now, enjoy the rest of your bank holiday, those in the UK. Enjoy the rest of your Monday evening or Monday daytime or Monday night, wherever you are in the world. And I will hopefully be able to speak to you again through these beautiful and wonderful ZMS Streams very soon. But bye for now. Thank you. I've been Kristen Moore. You've been listening to myself and watching ZMS Streams for this No Pin Super League Series 2. That's a wrap. Good night, good riding, and I will see you again soon.